Hello and thank you for watching Guitar 101 Rammstein. In this video I'm going to give an introduction to practicing and performing and playing with drones. And this is not just for the Baglama, this is for virtually any instrument. It could be for singing, it could be for guitar, it could be for trumpet, piano, it doesn't matter. Even percussion, you can use these. So you might have noticed, or not, last couple days I've uploaded a few tracks of drones. They're all like over 10 minutes long in particular keys. So I recorded them with synthesizers. I like to make them over 10 minutes long just because that's a good amount of time to really focus on it to practice. And I'm going to be covering the different keys, or the different notes I should say, sorry. So a drone is a root note that's continuous. And I mean, you can make kind of fancy with keyboards, or it could be just a tone going over. Sometimes we tune with drone tuning where there's always an open string being played over something. So I could play like... I'm always hitting that top A string. For this video, I'm using a short neck, and I'm tuned A for the strings closest to the ceiling, middle strings G, bottom strings D. You can tune that way in a long neck. Safer way, I prefer on a long neck, is G flat, E, B, and then put a capo on the 3rd fret. Then you'll be at that A, G, D. And you don't have to use a drone track. That's the note of your open string. That's just the easiest way to start. So I'm going to be doing these series of videos going into this stuff because there's just a lot of stuff to cover. This is for the beginners. And when I say beginner, I don't mean like you're a beginner at your instrument. I don't care if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. If you're just not experienced playing over drones or not sure how to do it, then this is for you as a beginner for using drones. And I found them extremely useful and helpful for all sorts of things. I could go on, and I will in the videos bring up the benefits. I'll keep covering them. But just to name a few of the like common ones off the top of my head, or where I wrote on a cheat sheet here, they're going to improve your ear training and your sense of pitch. That could be whether you're trying to identify a note or remember what a note sounds like, or knowing if you're in tune. So it helps for tuning. It's a very helpful thing for tuning, which we'll go over a little bit on this beginner level video. And it's excellent way of practice and improvisation. You'll learn to solo like this. You'll learn to make your own music. You'll learn to harmonize. It just goes on and on. But it has a huge impact on your sense of pitch and also listening, which is a very underrated or underlooked at trait to have as a musician. Those are some things that are just totally invaluable things I've learned from practicing this way. Is in the key of A, or tuned to A. And that's an easy open string, you know. So whether it's, if you're on a trumpet, it's like the easiest position to hit, you know, just start with the easy one at first. And what I'm going to do is first just let the drone track play. And I want to really... one thing I try to emphasize is I'm going to focus on one note for a long time doing this. So I want to really get into my head and remember this is the note A, and this is how A sounds. And that is the pitch, the frequency of A. So usually what I do is let it, even when I'm like getting set up to start practicing, I'll let one of these play in the key of A. And then when I'm ready to sit down, it's really in my head. Or, you know, let it play for a good few minutes and really just sit and listen to it for a while. And once you're kind of getting on your head, because what you're trying to do by doing this is memorizing what A sounds like. And I've talked to people with perfect pitch, and I've always been blown away when they have it at a really, like, so I've met some people that are just amazing with it. And I'm like, how do you do it? I could go on a keyboard and hit any note without them seeing it, and they're like, that's a G flat. Okay, try this one. That's a C. And I was like, how do you do that? One person I talked to, they couldn't explain it, but what they did explain, it's kind of weird and it doesn't make sense. I was like, how do you do that? And they're like, well, when I hear the note C, it makes me think of the color blue. So if we look at like the solfege system, do, re, mi, you know, we're calling the notes names instead of letters. That's where some people argue it's a better system than just saying C. You know, so that is something like that. But what I'm trying to do when I'm listening to the note and just getting acquainted with it and playing over it is anything I can, because everyone's minds is going to work different, have a different approach to it. Anything that I can to get like a memory of that note and think of things that I associate it with. It could be like a mood it gives you. It could be a color you see. It could be, I think for some people even saying they could smell notes. Like it gives us like weird stuff. But, you know, you're trying to just think of something that you can relate to it. And trying to memorize that note. It's a tough thing, but it's with practice you improve it. Alright, so I'm going to just be listening to that for a while. And you can start out just playing that same note along with it. So something very, very simple. And of course, my Baglama always goes out of tune. I can hear it. And I had some people, when I'm out of tune just like this, they don't notice it. And I tell them it's out of tune. They're like, it is? How do you hear that? I'm like, it is. But I think that's pretty obvious, but it's not super out of tune. But without ear training, a lot of people have a hard time realizing that. Even though they just tune their instrument with a tuner, you know, they didn't realize after they're playing that their instrument's out of tune. They don't identify that. So actually tuning just to the drum note is very, very helpful. I'm usually much more confident my instrument is in tune doing it this way than using like an app on my phone to tune it or a cheap tuner. Alright, so at this point I can even just kind of practice playing whatever I want over it, even just a rhythm. What you're going to develop doing this, if it's new to you, is learning to listen as you play. So you're not just listening to yourself, you're listening to the whole bigger picture. I'm listening to that backing, that drone track, while I'm listening to myself and trying to listen for details in my playing. Could be my dynamics, how loud I'm plucking, all sorts of things, if I'm out of tune, whatever. Alright, and the next kind of, I mean, you could do some, you could basically, you know, as an example, I can just jam over this. As long as I'm playing in a key of A, so any scale in the key of A, or I can use all the notes, really, if we look at chromatic scale, but I'm just going to jam over it. So I got my A, that's really always going to work. Trying different chords over it. Alright, so I can get carried away and just keep going. It's a lot of fun for me to practice this way, but there's always a lot more. I think you're going to find you achieve a lot more in the time of practice doing it this way than without. The next step you could do that's pretty easy, especially just getting started, if you're like an instrument where you have more than one of the same note or the note in different octaves, is try to find all, like this is in A, so I'm going to just try, and first off, I'll be the first to admit I don't have my fretboard memorized for Baglama, especially when I change tuning all the time and stuff like that. No way. So if you ask me where A is, besides the open string, I'd be like, I don't know. I'd have to find it. So that's a good practice too if you're kind of struggling with the ear training, is what I'll do is go to my D string and I'm going to try to find A and hear that it matches with the drum note. There we go. So if I'm like off by one note, I want to be able to know that. It's very easy and deceiving sometimes if you hit a harmony, like a fifth. See, it matches so nice with the note, but it's not the same note. So try to find that note without, you know, if you don't know your fretboard, try to find that A somewhere else. It will be on all the strings, you will have them. And just use your ears as much as you can, and if you're still not sure, even if you think you're sure, that's where you can get out a tuner and just hit that note and just double check, am I right? Is that an A? And then you, okay. And then you start, when I spend even just 10 minutes like that, focusing only on the A's on the fretboard, I'll start to get very good at finding those A's and memorizing them. You learn one note at a time that way. It's a very solid way of learning the fretboard. Also with Baglama, some people know this, some people I don't think ever thought about it, is we run out of frets after a while. There's a lot of frets, but that doesn't mean you run out of notes. You can go all the way up. So like, they sound funky because there's no frets, but yeah, you can find quite a few more A's than are just only here or any other note. So that's an excellent way of just familiarizing your way with a fretboard and finding notes. That's a very good exercise. After you sit down to practice, you should be able to ask yourself this question and answer it. And you should ask yourself, what did I learn today? And that could be anything. It could be, hey, I learned there's another A here. Or I learned a part of a song. I learned how to play this scale. I learned this chord. I learned how to do something better. So what I always tell people to do is before you sit down and practice, try to have a goal in mind. So say I'm just going to, okay, I want to play A's over this thing. But what I'll try to do maybe is be able to navigate my A's as best as possible or improve that. Or it could be something like I'm going to practice a picking technique while I'm doing this. So I'm trying to improve my alternate picking. It could be anything. But if you have a goal and you sit down, even for a 10-minute track like this, you'll find instead of just sitting down and like playing whatever, which everyone's guilty of, it's fun to do, but when you sit down with a goal, you can actually walk away knowing you've learned something and that you've improved as a musician. And keep the goal reasonable in the amount of time you have to practice. So if you have a half hour to practice and you're like, hey, I want to learn the entire Flight of the Bumblebee song from start to finish, a half hour might not be enough time for that. But I'll find one little thing that I can improve or work on or focus on. I could even be just learning like a different shape to a scale. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You can do that every day and you're never going to run out of possibilities. That's having a goal when you practice, which, I mean, whether you use a drone or not, that is something I found to make a huge difference. You get the most out of your time and effort putting into practice that way. And so that's about it for like just getting started on it. Go ahead and jump into it and try it. If you can't find a drone on my page that's in a note you want, if you search a drone in C or drone in D sharp or whatever, you're going to find it. There's tons of drone tracks on YouTube. And there's one more thing I'll add, and this is also very useful. Like I said, before I start playing, I'm going to listen to it for a while. It's also helpful to like put it on just on headphones, listen when you're driving or falling asleep, and just keeping in mind this is whatever note you're focusing on, so this is A. Spend a good amount of time on that and like focusing on it and remembering, just keep reminding yourself that that's that note A, this is how it feels, this is how it sounds, and try to memorize it. So that's it for now. I'm going to be doing more of these videos in a series and uploading them as I'm completing them. So if you haven't already subscribed and hit that bell notification, make sure you do so you don't miss them. Leave comments. I'm interested to see if you've worked with drones already and any ideas I didn't bring up or ways that have helped you, or if you're trying it for the first time, let me know how your results are. Feedback is always highly welcomed, more so than just the thumbs up, because that keeps me motivated to do the videos and makes me feel like there's a reason to keep doing them. Till then.